Alright, so moving on from parabolas and continuing on our stuff about conic sections, we're going to move it on to circles. Okay, and so you know what? Hopefully you know what a circle is. So circles, circles, circles. They could be big circles, or they could be small circles, or they could be tiny circles. That was a terrible circle, but anyway, that's what we're going to be looking at now. So we're going to be looking at like graphing these and different things that you can do with a circle. This is probably the easiest out of the three because it's pretty straightforward, and it's just like finding the radius and the center of it. So the equation of a circle is right here: x minus h, that whole thing squared, plus y minus k, that whole thing squared, minus r squared. And so the first thing we want to do is identify what the center of it would be, and the center is h and k. Okay, so your center is just h comma k. That is the center of your circle. So whatever is being added or subtracted to the x is the x coordinate of the center, and whatever is being added or subtracted to the y is the y coordinate of it. Now, sometimes you won't get them as easy as these, so you'd have to use your completing of the square to get into these. This setup of the equation. Okay, now your radius is the r. So if you see in this equation it's r squared, so whatever it equals to, you're going to want to take the square root of it, and that's going to tell you what your radius is. And then from there you're going to be able to find your circles. Okay. Alright, so let's do an example. So this is your formula. That should be something that, or your equation of a circle. Now if you type this in, if you solve for the y and type it into your calculator, you're going to have to make sure you do plus or minus to be able to graph both parts, because again your calculator will want to graph the function of it, and you can't really do both at the same time. So if we have the center of a circle at 3, -2, and the radius is 5, what would the equation be? Okay. And so the equation, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the 3 in for the h, and -2 in for the k, and then 5 is our r. And so when we plug it in, we end up getting x minus 3 squared plus y minus a -2 squared is equal to 5 squared. Now because you have a negative and a negative, you're going to put positive 2. So it's going to be y plus 2, that whole thing squared. So you want to simplify it. Okay. So kind of what happening is that whatever your coordinates are, you're going to do the opposite, and that's what's going to be inside these parentheses. So if it was a positive 3, you're going to go minus 3. If it was a -2, you're going to go plus 2. And then you multiply the 5 through, which gets you 25. And so your equation would be y minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 25. And that would be the equation of your circle. Okay, so now let's say we want to graph this. So we want to graph this circle. So what you're going to do is you're going to graph the center. Okay, so it's at 3. 1, 2, 3, 2. So it looks like it's right about there. So there's our center, okay, which I'm going to label as C. And now to find the other points of the circle, what we're going to do is we're going to use the radius, which was 5. And we're going to move 5 units in the north, south, east, west direction. Okay, so 5 backwards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's going to be a point. 5 forwards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 up north, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 south, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now once we have that, we kind of just want to put arcs in it so that we can get our nice circle going. And so that would be our circle. Okay, so that would be just graphing the circle. So the first thing you do is graph your center, and then you just put about 4 points, north, south, east, west. That is the radius, and then from there you just kind of arc it, and you get a nice circle. Okay, so that's graphing a circle. Okay, so now let's say instead of giving the radius, we're given a single point. Okay, so if you're given a single point with the center, when you plug in all this stuff into the x and y, so there's 2 ways of doing this. One way I'm going to type it up here. So you'll be using the distance formula to find what r is. So you plug in the center and the other point, simplify it down, and you know what your r is, and then you can plug it in. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is to take this information, set up your circle, so x minus 3 squared plus y minus 4 squared is equal to r squared. And we want to find r squared, or r squared. And so what we're going to do is that we're going to take this 7 and this 10 and plug it in for the x and y. Okay. So when we plug it in, we're going to have 7 minus 3, that whole thing squared. And then we're going to have 10 minus 4, that whole thing squared, is equal to r squared. So 7 minus 3 is 4, 4 squared, which is 16. 10 minus 4 is 6. 6 squared is 36. And then that equals r squared. R squared. So 16 plus 36 is 52, which as you see is the same. So basically what's happening is that we're still using the distance formula, but you don't have to use specifically saying, oh, I'm going to use the distance formula. Just set up the equation with your center already plugged in, and then plug in the other point into the equation and find what r is. It's just simplifying. Okay. And then that tells you what your r squared would be. Okay, so our radius in this case would be the square root of 52, so a little over 7, like 7.2-ish would be about the radius. Okay. Okay, so find the center and radius of these. So the first one, our center would be, okay, so you change the sign, and then it's the number. Change the sign, and it's the number. So it looks like our center would be at negative 5, 4. And then our radius would just be the square root of what it's equal to. This is the square root of 121, which is 11. The next one, we're going to change the sign here, so it'd be a positive 2. And then you look here and go, oh no, it's not doing anything, it's just y. Well, basically this is just saying y plus 0. So our other point's going to be 0, so we have 2 comma 0. Square root of 49 gets us our radius, which would be 7. And so that is our center and our radius, given the equation. Okay. All right, so your IRAT. For this one, you're going to have to write the equation for each of the following circles. So the first one, I give you the center and the radius. So then just plug it in and write out your equation. So x minus k squared plus y minus, or x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. And then the second one, I give you the point and the center. Okay, so you should be able to find the equations for both of these.